Hi, I'm Bill Alexander, CEO of the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund. I am pleased to welcome you to today's program, Building Bridges, How to Create an LGBTQ+ Liaison Program, which is being presented in partnership with Target and Out to Protect. In 1962, the San Francisco Police Department became the first to implement an LGBTQ+ liaison position among their ranks. The department hoped that this role would help to improve the long-strained relationship between the police department and the city's LGBTQ+ community. Today, more and more departments across the country are implementing LGBTQ+ liaison programs of their own. And the panel presenting today features officers and community members from LGBTQ+ liaison programs across the country who will provide their advice to other departments who are interested in forming their own LGBTQ+ liaison program. I will now turn it over to our panel for this illuminating discussion.
Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to this program. Happy Pride if you're listening to this during Pride Month. The topic today is LGBT law enforcement community liaison programs, and I am super excited to be here with a group of experts from all over the country to talk about their individual programs and experiences developing LGBT liaison programs. So hopefully you all have had a chance to take a look at the bios for our esteemed panel. We won't spend the time having them do great introductions, but please take a look at their background and experience. But I want to jump right into this discussion with you all and talk about what caused your agency to want to create an LGBT liaison program. What was it? Was there an incident, or was there some event that caused this, or was it your own idea that you came up with? Kevin Turner, let's start with you.
So good morning. My name is Kevin Turner with the City of South Fulton Police Department here in Georgia. The reason why our department discovered that they needed a liaison, or why it came up for discussion, is that we had an applicant that applied to be a police officer, and he listed on his application that he was HIV positive. And it rose the question, are we, or should we, hire a officer who was HIV positive? Why or why not? And as we were talking about it, I kind of spoke up and I said, hey, you know, that's something that's federally protected under the Disabilities Act. You cannot base your determining factor solely on their HIV status. And so that was something that was still going back and forth, like, well, you know, what if? And I'm like, no, that's a hard stop. There's nothing we can do about that. And I even reached out to the legal team for our city and got confirmation just to say, hey, we cannot do that. And so with me having that drive, that fire, that passion to advocate for, you know, someone, they kind of appointed me as a diversity subject matter expert, where I would kind of know all there is to know as far as what can we hire for when it comes to things of that sort. And with me being a part of the LGBT community, I said, well, hey, most departments are starting to get LGBT liaisons. We're a metro city right outside the city of Atlanta, and they're pretty huge here in Georgia, and they have a liaison program. So I implemented that. I pitched it to the chief that we should have one, and kind of came up with a PowerPoint presentation on other agencies who have done this, and here's the training on it, here's the statistics on it, why we need it. And the chief was on board. Chief Keith Meadows was on board. He was all for it, and he said, you know, this is your thing, take it and run with it. And I did just that. Good for you. Excellent. Jennifer, you've been doing this now for almost a year, and you built the program from the ground up. What was the impetus for Roanoke Park Public Safety?
Sure. Well, actually, if I might add to that, I actually started at Petaluma Police Department. I've been in law enforcement almost 9 years, so I had the privilege of also participating in LGBTQ policies and programs at Petaluma Police Department before transferring to Roanoke Park Department of Public Safety. So I've been very fortunate to have both agency engagements in this way. At both of our locations, it wasn't an incident per se. It was more myself working with both DCs at both agencies. And we really had kind of an internal need to, I would say, maybe modernize and augment our LGBTQ programs, policies, and also our genuine engagement with the community at both locations, Petaluma and Roanoke Park Department of Public Safety. So for us, the move towards that kind of action, both externally, working with local partnerships, and then internally with staff, kind of came from this just overriding need to really bring our agency forward and be more up to date. So that's kind of how our agency moved forward with those.
Great.
Ways. Yeah, definitely.
And Reagan, you've been at this business for a while now. Talk about how you got into it and what was the impetus.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks. And thanks for having me in this space with you all today. So here at the Orange County Sheriff's Office, I've been here about 21 years now. So I go a little bit back to when we didn't have a liaison program. And we had, prior to our current administration, the sheriff at that time was Sheriff Jerry Demings. He had brought to our command staff and wanted to implement a liaison program, but didn't know how to get that started. And then, unfortunately, that was during the same time period as I'm sure many of you have heard about the Polish tragedy here in Orlando. So before that, we were in discussions about it. After that, the rubber kind of hit the road where our program took off because of a gap that we had with engagement with the community, specifically LGBTQ+. So we started here at the Orange County Sheriff's Office with one liaison under that administration, which was Jerry Demings, who is now the mayor of Orange County. And then after he left office to take over as the mayor of Orange County, we were fortunate and blessed enough to get Chief John Mina, who was the Orlando police chief, who's now the sheriff here at Orange County Sheriff's Office. So one of his big priorities when he first came in was a one-on-one meeting with me, because I was the only liaison at the time when we started the program. And he had a program started over at the Orlando Police Department. And just give some context of the area, the Orange County Sheriff's Office is the county where all of our municipalities lie in. And OPD, the Orlando Police Department, is the biggest city police department within the Orange County jurisdiction. So it made sense that, he wanted to bring the program here and make it bigger and better than what it was. And we were fortunate enough with his leadership to now have 13 liaisons, the first agency in the country to be accredited through Out to Protect, numerous trainings, community engagement, and we have grown and morphed a lot. And it really proves value when you interact with the community here locally, especially our trans friends who have had negative contact with law enforcement just by the nature of, being trans in the community and not being respected, by others, but law enforcement specifically. So throughout the many years of our program now, we're fortunate enough to say, we bridge that gap. We have work to do every day, and that's why our program continues to grow. We continue to bring trainings here to Central Florida. We partner up with the Gay Officers Action League of Central Florida as well for those trainings and host trainings through them as well, where I serve as the advisor to their president. And we've done great things. And I think the value of a LGBTQ+ liaison program proves itself when several years ago, law enforcement was not welcomed and come out with pride parades, or there was a lot of controversy across the East Coast about that kind of thing. Here locally, we have such a great relationship with our Come Out with Pride board and their organization, where we had town halls that discussed those challenges that we were able to work through because of the impact that our programs had on our local community here. And then fostering those relationships and, being requested to attend those parades now and being in the front of those parades and not in the back of those parades, and just building that relationship with all those individuals. So it's really detrimental to any agency out there that is either thinking about starting a program or is kind of on the fence of wanting to start a program, that you reach out to one of the more established agencies like our agency or others on this call that can help build that program. And, and just moving forward, ours has proven to be a success. And we're going to continue to make it grow here in Orange County and Central Florida and continue that engagement process with the community to bridge those gaps.
Great. And Andrea, you work closely with Brandon as a community leader. From your perspective, tell us a little bit about when you first heard that the sheriff's office was going to create this program and then expand it. How important was that for you?
I mean, I'm gonna go, thank you. To answer, one is a personal, because in my past life, before I came to the United States, I was law enforcement in Colombia. So I have I'm gonna say I always had the this is all you're gonna have forever in your blood. So, but was it difficult also to be trans and law enforcement? So it's kind of, so meet Brandon and meet the program. Give me, oh my God, this is the same. We can work together. This is kind of important intersectionality. I have to take this with power to bring this to the rest of the community. So I just said I right now to the executive director for the Gay Officer Alliance in Orlando, and I also work for the field organizer for the LGBTQ National LGBTQ Task Force. So I'm an activist. So I go into rallies, I go to activists. I say, but sometimes people see the police as the enemy. I don't see like the enemy. You follow the rules. Actually, they kind of, so what we do in this, what is important now for me is build these bridges, difficult bridges, but we're doing really good because we're doing some training together with the law enforcement. And actually, last weekend we had a conversation with a trans community and the law enforcement. And some of them feel so uncomfortable. They don't feel okay to be in the space, but when they see me talking, they feel, oh, this is a bridge here. This is intersectionality. So I'm a trans woman. I'm part of the LGBTQ, but I also was a law enforcement. So that really for me was like put another part of my activists. Sounds weird, but it's true. So activists in favor of the breaches of the police because we're in the same situation. So I think that's exactly so important. It's something unique. I hope with my times we got something similar than this.
Great. Let's go to Waco, Texas. Jay, talk about how you brought the liaison program to your agency.
Yeah, so our liaison program was actually created in June of 2021. And when I say created, talking to Chief, she had conversations with city leaders and they asked, hey, do y'all have a liaison program? Chief was like, no. So they kind of got together and was like, let's get one started at the police department. So in June of 2021, she sent out an email and was like, hey, would anybody be interested in this? And at the time, I didn't apply for it. I was still on patrol. I was still running and gunning, and all that stuff. And actually, a female that I worked with, she had put in for it. She was actually the first liaison. And so for a year, we had a liaison program. And then in September, so in 2022, beginning of 2022, a new position opened up in our department. It's called the Neighborhood Engagement Team. And as much as I love patrol, I kind of wanted to try something new. So I applied for the Neighborhood Engagement Team. We do a lot of community work and community engagement, getting out in the community. And so I applied for that and I loved it. And then so in September of 2022 of that year, Chief approached me and said, hey, we're going to have a community discussion with our LGBT community in Waco. So Chief, Commander, Sergeant, and then they invited me to go with them. And during that discussion, they were talking and Chief was like, hey, I'd like to introduce you to our new LGBT liaison, Officer Draper. And so in front of everybody, I was kind of like, oh, hi, like truly honored. But again, the officer that had done it before, not that she just didn't know what to do. And then, of course, being on patrol, we had so many different things going on. It just wasn't feasible. So when Chief approached me with that, I was, I told her I was absolutely honored. I would love to, but I'll do it on one condition. I don't want to be a name on a page. I want to actually do some stuff. And so with that, she agreed. And it kind of speaks to, because the first year, I didn't go to the Out to Protect Liaison Academy until August of 2023. And it speaks to how much I learned from that, just because that first year from September 2022 to August 2023, I didn't know what I was doing. And it shows because nothing happened. I didn't know how to get started, where to start, what to do. I was a name on a page for a year. And so, but after that, it really kind of took off and got going from there. But yeah, it started with there was an event that took place in Waco. It was just a city talking and discussing, and got with Chief and they said, hey, this is something we need. And that's how I got started with an email and then getting put on the spot, with me. So accepted it. Yeah.
Great. I know that Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department was one of the first to have a liaison program, and you certainly have been a leader in this area for decades now. Maria, tell us about the history of the program, and was there something that got it started?
Yes, so good afternoon, everyone. Officer Mendoza, yes. So actually, our LGBT liaison unit has been around since 2001. So we're talking about maybe, 20-something years now. And I think, so everyone knows DC, it's where, everything big takes place. So we've always had a big population of LGBT community here present. And unfortunately, throughout history, we know that the relationship between law enforcement and the LGBT community has not always been great. So I think part of that is what really started the liaison unit here. MPD here in DC, Metropolitan Police Department, has always been a department that always wants to be ahead of its time. We love being able to serve the community. So when the LGBT unit started, it was started with other units as well, which has started the Special Liaisons branch. So under the Special Liaisons branch, we started a couple liaison units, and one of them was the LGBT. And we wanted to be able to go out there and do community outreach, which is pretty much one of our three principles, which that's what we dedicate ourselves to: community outreach, conduct follow-ups, and conduct training. And we want to make sure that everyone in the department is able to know and understand how to respond to the type of situations where that involves the LGBT community, where they feel included and they feel that they are able to speak to any officer. So that's mainly the reason why the LGBT unit started here. And to be honest, follow up, I have big shoes to fill. It's been a very, very successful unit. And when I first started the department 8 years ago, and I knew that MPD had this liaison unit, I was ecstatic. I was ecstatic because, one, I knew that we were dedicating ourselves to be able to bridge that gap between us and the community. And two, I knew that we were training other people who I work with who will be welcoming us and to be able to be who we are. So I think other officers stated like, how they started the unit. Being able to have the honor of being part of a unit that has already been established and to continue this work has been amazing. Every year we're take part in Pride, and next year we're gonna have World Pride that's gonna be coming here to DC. So that's gonna be a huge, huge event that we're getting ready for, and I think we're ready. I think us having this decades of having the liaison unit and constantly working with our partners, it's gonna prepare us for that. So it's been great. It's been amazing. And I think it's been, since the moment it started, it's been really good. And it's done nothing but gone up since then.
That's great. Everybody should mark their calendars now for, was it May 23rd through June?
June 9th, I believe. June 9th.
For at least a couple of weeks, right? World Pride, yeah. DC.
Yeah.
Excellent. And that would be a great time to visit the Law Enforcement Museum while you're there as well. So a little plug for the museum. Maria, I want to come back to you, though, and ask a few more detailed questions about what is it that liaison officers actually do. As Jay said, it's more than just a name on a page. So what are the key responsibilities in your agency that an LGBT liaison officer has?
So we fall under three pillars that we have, right? We do conduct follow-ups, we do community engagement, and we do training. So starting with the follow-up, so we have a system where every time someone from the LGBT community is a victim of a crime, whether if it's a misdemeanor or a felony, they have to make notification to the liaison unit. So that therefore we are able to conduct a follow-up with them and provide them the services that we have. And when I say services, I mean the agencies that we work along by side, who can provide services to them, whether they need relocation, if they need legal assistance, even if they need translation, if they're part of either the Latino community, the Asian community, anything, any of the sort, that they provide these resources. We even have resources for domestic violence in the LGBT community, that of agencies that we work. So that's our biggest focus and emphasis on conducting our follow-ups to make sure that anyone who has been a victim of a crime, who's fallen under the LGBT, whether that's of a hate crime because of a sexual orientation, of the gender identification or any of the sort, whether if it's a hate crime that fell on that, we want to make sure that they get those services. And that's a daily thing, whether we conduct them via telephone or in person, we want to make sure that they get those services. Following that, we do our community engagement, which it's a couple of things that comes with that. One is we go to all events that our partners conduct. So we take place, we either table and provide people the resources and the phone numbers for our agency. We do have a line that is access 24/7. So either citizens and or patrol officers can call us to make notifications, or if citizens want to call, if it's a non-emergency, then they are told that they're able to call if they want to get either services or information in regards to the resources we have. Is that line is available 24/7. So someone's always answering that line. As well as we conduct our own events as well. So we work together with other agencies where we put events together. What does that mean? Meaning, let's say for Pride, we can either do like a tabling event where we get all of our partners together, and let's put these resources together. Now that we have everyone, coming out and having a good time, but we also want them to do it safely. So we have a couple of partners who provide health services information. So we do that together. And so it's community engagement is literally what it means. We are engaged in the community outside. And then the last one is training. So this is an important one for the department itself, because we provide training to all the officers, upcoming and current officers, in regards to how to handle situation when it comes to hate crimes, as well as how to be able to communicate and respect others in regards to their sexual orientation and their the gender identification. So especially in the transgender community, we want to make sure that everyone in the department is educated and that they know how to handle the situations, how to address them.
Yeah, sounds like more than a full-time job.
It sure is.
I want to go to your agency because you're a single LGBT liaison, correct?
Yes, it's just me.
So talk about some of the key responsibilities that you have as sort of a standalone representative for your agency.
Yeah. So as soon as I got back, really the first thing that I want to do as a liaison is create like a job description selection process, because we all know just because you're gay doesn't make you a good liaison. And so that was really the very first thing I hit the ground running on was creating that. And utilizing that as like a selection process based on our other auxiliary positions, because again, I'm part of the neighborhood engagement team. So liaison's not the only thing that I do. And so I wanted to think about sustainability. And that was one of the things that I learned is like, if I'm no longer here, the liaisons coming behind me, making sure that program is sustainable. So really hitting the ground with that. But key responsibilities, if you think about it, it's just two words: rebuilding trust. And whatever that looks like for your community. So for me, this was starting brand new. So I started very, very, very small. I would look and see one of the first things I did was I had a meeting with some of the queer organizations in Waco and was like, hey, I wanted to introduce myself. These are the plans that I have for the liaison program and the goals that I have. I can't tell you how long this is going to take, but these are the things and the steps that I would like to bring to the program and would love to work together. So I started doing that. And then I just started showing up, honestly, at little events here and there, out of uniform. I'd go with my girlfriend as just a community member as part of the LGBT community, and then introduce myself as a liaison. So trying to just kind of get my name out there so people could know me as a person before I kind of shocked them with the uniform, just because of that history there. So kind of just started going to that. And then people started inviting me as a liaison to come to these things. And so talking about the plans that I have and what I want to do. And as that started growing, I really wanted it so something very small again that I looked at. I kind of laid everything out I wanted to do, and I looked at kind of the easiest, smallest steps into like the bigger ones. And so kind of after people were coming to me, I looked at our website, and on our website, again, it was just my name on a page. And so I started looking at other liaisons across the country, and I was like, no, I want people to see my face. I want you to see that this is your liaison in Waco, Texas. So creating something like that to where it has my face, my name, a little background of me, what the liaison does, following the job description and stuff, safety tips, little things like that, how you can contact me. And so something that, might seem very small was very big for the liaison program, again, because it had never been created. But at least that way people could know, besides just seeing a name, they could see a face and kind of understand and read what my goals and responsibilities that I want the liaison program to be. And just like DC was talking, one of the things I got from them is I loved how they go out on calls and follow-ups and stuff. So I started talking to other officers and detectives, and I was like, hey, if you get anything dealing with the LGBT community, call me. I'm even kind of working on being an on-call position right now. And, our commander's like, it's only you. Are you sure you want to do that? And I'm like, well, yes, let me at least take this on so you can see that there's a need for it. And so that's something I'm working on. But really just, I started with wanting to just take that rebuilding trust in little steps as I could, showing up at events and hosting events, creating a training, a specific email for the liaison. So that way right now, or before, it was tied to me. And actually just like 2 weeks ago, we actually got a specific LGBT liaison for Waco, and which is huge. I think that's awesome. So that way, it's something that sustains long after I'm gone. So yeah, as a single person, it's hard, but everybody who looks at the work that's being done can see a passion in it. And it is. It's truly a passion that I have building this, and even just working with the community. Hey, what are some things you want to see from your liaison? How would you like to see this going forward? And sometimes at the events that I would just kind of told you, I just pop my head into and just be like, hey, I'm here. They wanted, a lot of times they'd be like, we want to interact more with the police. So they wanted us to be a part of it. And so sharing that with admin and sharing that with our leaders of our department is like, hey, they want us to be a part of this. Let's start doing things. Here's some things. And then I just kind of took my list and it's like, here's all the things that I want to do, and kind of work that in that way. And it's been well received from the community and as well from the city and admin. So I'm just kind of, not flying blind. I got a little blueprint from the academy from Greg. And so I've been kind of taking that and running with it. And then again, just talking to other liaisons across the country is like, hey, how are y'all working this? How are y'all's policies doing this? And so doing little things here and there.
Great. And the visibility is an important piece. And that, interestingly enough, is some of the biggest challenges I think I've heard from liaisons is, how do we break through the control of social media at the law enforcement agency so we can communicate electronically with people in addition to in person? Kevin, your program is somewhat new, and it was created out of a fairly unique set of circumstances. But what are the key responsibilities now that you've established for your role?
Yeah, so like you were saying, my liaison program is in its infancy. We are still trying to get the ball rolling. It is just me right now, kind of like Jay and Waco. But like I said earlier, the program came about because we understood that there was a need. There needs to be someone there to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the LGBT community, someone that can do follow-ups and just reach out and say, hey, do you feel heard? Do you feel safe? How are we as a department, someone that they can talk to and relate to? So the main key things that I've established is follow-up, same thing as other liaisons. Anytime that there is a case involving a LGBT community member as a victim, it automatically is, well, not automatically, but the Criminal Investigations Division, the detectives and the investigators forward the information to the LGBT liaison. We've created a dedicated email address and a dedicated phone number for the liaison, so they know how to contact me. They can share that with the public as well. We do advertise that information on social media, but I will get the case number. I'll look over the case, kind of see what happened, and then I'll reach out to the victim and I'll introduce myself as the liaison, kind of explain what we're here for, just so you can have someone that you can talk to that understands exactly what it is that you're saying. And I asked, do you want to meet in person? I can come to you, you can come to me. I could pick you up and we can go for coffee and just kind of talk over the case on what happened. And a lot of times what we found is with a liaison, the victim, the LGBT member, is they're more likely to open up. So I'll give an example where there was a gentleman who was robbed at gunpoint by his own boyfriend. He had won the lottery and he come up on some sum of money. And so his boyfriend is like, hey, and his boyfriend, I should say, is down low, DL, not, out. So the boyfriend comes to him and says, hey, I've done this for you. I've provided this for you. I've looked out for you in this aspect. And I need you to give me, some of your winnings, some of your earnings, or, the lottery winnings. And that was kind of conveyed to the detectives as they came out onto the scene. But the victim didn't feel comfortable saying this was my boyfriend. And, this is what happened. And there was another witness who was in the vehicle who was transgender. And so the victim is giving her, chosen name. And so as the detectives are trying to this person, when we're running the name and date of birth, is not coming back on file. The victim didn't feel comfortable saying, they're transgender. Their dead name is male. Here's their male name and date of birth to get them to come back on file for the report. So when I reached out to the victim and I'm talking to him, he felt more comfortable to say, this is my boyfriend and this is my trans friend and this is what happened. And, they were able to open up more just because they didn't feel, tensed up a little bit, as you could say. So that's a great aspect. Just exactly that, having somebody to talk to that you can relate. Another thing that I provide is training. So we identified that our officers do need training as it relates to gender identity, pronouns, sexual orientation, interactions with someone who you may encounter on a traffic stop that may have a male presenting photograph on their ID with a male name, but that is not, what they're presenting before you in the vehicle, and how to handle that aspect. So that's something that our chief, I suggested to the chief that this needs to be mandatory, and we've made it mandatory where we do LGBT training a minimum of twice a year and a minimum of 2 hours per session. And just serving as a point of contact. We do social media advertising, going to events. I reach out to liaison community members in the Fulton County area and say, hey, what events do you have going on? I follow them on social media. And anything that I see that they have going on, I'll reach out to them and say, hey, I plan on attending, your event, introduce myself, and I'll go out of uniform. And, just that way that the community can put a face to the name. I come as Kevin. I'm a, community member of this county, just like you. I'm an LGBT member. And then later, I'm also an officer. And, I can help you in an aspect should you ever need me, just so that they can put a face to the name and get to know me personally. And like I said, assisting with investigations. Those are the top things that, is my concern.
Yeah, I hear training being a very central theme here from all of you that have spoken so far. Jennifer, for you, what are the key responsibilities for the assignment that you have?
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate what both Jay and Kevin said, because at Roanoke Park Department of Public Safety, I'm the only, technical LGBT liaison, and there's a lot in there to accomplish as an individual. I'm also a civilian or professional staff. I'm not sworn, and I want to say I think it's very, very important to unify sworn and professional staff together as allies on this internal goal. Because there's no substitute for either, right? They both serve important roles, and the buy-in and the move for HR policy, community engagement, working with training and recruiting, it's all so essential to making these programs run. And like the Out to Protect accreditation we also went through, which was essential to helping our staff understand what is important to move. Everything that everyone on this panel is saying is really, really important. So I appreciate what you're saying. For us, because this is at Roanoke Park, our first year, our focus and my focus as the liaison has been similar to Kevin and Jay in that just establishing internally all of the right website, social media, phone numbers, a face to the programs, working with detectives, making sure the training is really up to date and appropriate and everybody gets it. So we really focused on making sure that professional staff as well as our sworn staff had this and understood that moving forward, this was a priority. And I think that is really important because once everybody understands what the plan is, whether they believe it as an individual or not, but as a first responder in our world, as soon as they understand what we're doing, then I feel like it's much easier for investment, both financially, intellectually, educationally, to be invested in all the things we need to do. And so that first year is certainly important. And I appreciate what the other agencies have been saying, because my role is to work with those divisions and those departments to make sure I'm supplying them with the training, the resources, whatever the teams and their unique departments need. I need to make sure that I'm providing it. And if I don't know, I need to go to Out to Protect or other agencies to learn that, to bring that back. And that camaraderie is essential to making all of our programs successful. So that's been my main focus this year.
Great.
And I'm continuing to learn. So
Good.
Yeah, thank you.
Brandon, you have a team of 13, you said. Talk about the key responsibilities and how does that team concept work? Do you have certain responsibilities that you've doled out, or is everybody doing everything?
So it's kind of like a little mixed bag. At the sheriff's office, we're about 1,800 sworn personnel, 1,400 civilian support staff. So we're rather large. We have a mix up with our liaison program of sworn and civilian. So we have a balance between the both. They report from all different aspects of the agency: patrol, admin jobs, comm center, courthouse, so HRD, career development. So we have a mixed bag, very diverse on our program. And then we all communicate through a group emailing system. So we'll have events that come in. That's just one component of it, because the liaison program is not just something that we push in June or October, depending on when you have your Pride. The liaison program is truly an essential function within the agency. That's 7 days a week, all year long. So we've embedded into the culture within our agency, our program, which is good. I specifically lead the program as the lead liaison. I report directly to the sheriff. So I have that communication straightforward with him. And then that helps us excel and move things forward when we need to make, changes or attend functions and things like that. So depending on what's coming in for the week will depend upon who covers which community engagement event or town hall or community discussion. And those things come in on the regular. So we'll blast the email to our team group, and then we kind of facilitate from there and work amongst each other about who's going to cover which events. In addition to periodic team meetings, and making sure that we're on the same page. All of our liaisons are members of the Gay Officers Action of Central Florida. So it kind of overlaps with our liaison program. So those two entities work very well together. So a lot of the community events that Goal is at, so are our local law enforcement liaisons, not just within our agency, but others within the municipalities here. Lots of community engagement meetings. And again, those are from town halls, panels, to just discussions with private entities who want to know about our liaison program, what we do, how we started, where we're at, and that comes in pretty frequently. Additionally, like everybody else mentioned on the panel, a lot to do with training, but things change so rapidly that training is an important component of the program. And that's not just things internally training, but receiving the proper training externally from different organizations, Out to Protect being one of them, to make sure that we're up to date on all the current terminology and respecting pronouns and things like that. And then that piggybacks into our website, which you can go onto and find all of our liaisons on there with our contact information, bios on each one. And then our Safe Place Initiative program, which is an important concept for our law enforcement departments here in Central Florida, where a business can register as a safe place and say, they see this decal on the window of the business and it's like, hey, they're supportive. They're not going to question who I am, judge me about how I look in front of them. And they're saying when they sign up and we do a little one-on-one interview with them, we go out to the business, vet the business, and then provide a little one-on-one training with them. And then in turn, they register saying, that they would help a victim of a crime if they walk into their establishment. and not judge that victim. And, that keeps our liaison group busy as well. So, and that's in addition to like Pride is in October, technically in Orlando for our Come Out Private Parade, but a lot of Pride is in June as well. So there's tons of events going on that we just kind of divvy up to who's working, who's not working, all those kind of things come into play. So it's good to have a team like that and the team component, I believe, because it takes a lot. It takes a lot for an agency this size if you were to have one. So the team component here works tremendously. And then we do a lot of social media. So you'll find us very active on social media in addition to the website, like I already said, but we promote all year long, not just June or October. So that's an important component of our program here as well. In addition to recruiting specifically from our LGBTQ plus community and making sure that our recruiters are targeting LGBTQ plus events that they're at and that we're advertising in our local LGBTQ magazines like Watermark and things like that. So all those components are moving daily, but then, again, it's kind of getting that embedded into the culture of your agency, and it didn't occur overnight, trust me, and I didn't do it all alone. So it really does take a team to, continue building that program and getting it to morph into what it is now. And obviously buy-in from your administration, which we have here at Orange County Sheriff's Office. We're extremely lucky to have Sheriff John Mina here, who is a major proponent of the program. And, so that makes it obviously much more simplistic for the work that we do and we're accomplishing.
Yeah. Thank you. Andrea, I'm curious, you've alluded already that this is an important presence in your community, but what are some of the things that the Liaison program does specifically that you think are just absolutely essential that every Liaison program should do from a community perspective?
Thank you. Yeah, that is a so important question because it's a few of them. It's a few. I like the example Kevin did. That's so important because the community sometimes the misgender or all this is people afraid to say who you are to a police officer, or sometimes they dead name when they are killed or something like that. But that's because people are afraid to say the truth. So get the liaison officer working, and this is so important. I think the other, and I see as a community member, I loved what we had in Orange County in Orlando, but if I travel 45 minutes to a different county, I don't have nothing. So I think it's, to be honest, I thought so, because I don't know how many states it has it in the, but counties. Florida is beautiful. Central Florida is more a bubble of safety, and education is important. However, sometimes you go different counties, and you had more afraid to be there, to be honest, as yourself. So it's kind of how, I'm going to read the question, how we can improve this and show the other counties how important is this, how it's important to solve a crime, how it's important to work together. Because, you have to have, in some counties, I guess, like the immigrants or the LGBTQ, they're afraid to talk with the police. So they can be witness, they can have this information for law enforcement. So have the liaison officer is a super powerful tool, help us to, again, build the bridges again, all of us, but it's a lot of holes, a lot of places you don't have this safety as a LGBTQ. Go to Pride is incredible, you got different Pride, but you march here with Orange County because they march with us, OPD do the same, they have the LGBTQ card, but again, you go to different county, you don't have the same, and it's Pride there too, so you don't feel that, we go into Pride as an activist and move everything, but you don't see the same friendship with, because you don't have license over there. I don't know if that's so important as a community.
Got it. Maria, for your community and your agency, like many other big cities, has had some struggles around being accepted back into Pride parades, right? So there was this period of time where local Pride organizations were sort of rejecting law enforcement agencies. Talk about the role that your program has had in reestablishing trust, growing trust with the community there in Greater DC.
Yes. So, yes, unfortunately, is, like everything, there's always bumps in the road. And there was times where we were not able to participate in the Pride Parade, mostly because, the LGBT community does not feel comfortable with our presence, especially in full uniform. But I think with community engagement, again, and just having our presence being there, and honestly, most importantly, is for people to see that there's a representation in the department and that we're here and that we are them, like me being part of the LGBT community, they can see that I'm a police officer, but I also represent other people, and I think that's definitely something that has worked. So in the past years, we've kind of come to, meet in the middle, where we still are part of the Pride Parade, just not in the parade. So we're still able to be out there, make sure that everything and everyone is safe, that the parade is able to take place without any interruptions, and then as well as us being able to be out there and for the community to see the officers who are part of the LGBT liaison, so they can recognize the face. So if they ever see us in the community, they say like, "Oh, I know that officer," or "I've seen that officer," or "I can speak to that officer because I know they accept me." And part of that, it's that breaching the gap with the community, and for them to hopefully us being able to get back into being able to fully be involved in the Pride Parade as well.
Great. Jay, Kevin, and Jennifer, I want to ask you a slightly different question. Let's talk about the acceptance of the LGBT Liaison program within the organization. What has the response been from your peers when the program was first announced and then implemented? Kevin, let's start with you.
I would say we had a bit of a mixed response. Some people thought it was great. Some people have voiced that they didn't understand what was the point or what was the need. But it really answered their question when we started to do training. A lot of officers said that the training was great and that they now have a better understanding. And if it's just one thing that you can take away from each training, then the training was successful. One thing that I love to do is surveys. So we did, after the training and after the announcement, we did a internal survey, and the questions were pretty generic on do you feel we have the need? Do you feel comfortable interacting with the LGBT community right now? Say you were faced with a scenario where you went to a fight call and it was 2 men or 2 women. Would you feel comfortable, understanding what is going on? And a lot of the officers were saying, I wouldn't treat it any differently. I would treat it everything the same. And to be honest, as far as the law goes, everyone is treated the same. But you do have to also understand that in an LGBT community setting, some things are different because this is not a traditional setting with a man and a woman, So after the trainings, those people who were not on board, were leaning towards, now I get it. Now I understand. This has helped me out a lot. And we do have a small out LGBT presence inside and internally in the law enforcement agency, and they all came to me and was like, "This is great. This is excellent. I'm proud of you for stepping up and being the person that said, I'll do it. I'll be the face of it. I'll run it. And so it's been good so far. Like I say, definitely a need for it when you first start out with those officers who say that they don't need a need. And then after training and, having tough conversations and scenarios and getting, the gears turning where they start to think a little more, they'll say, that was great. I came out of it with a different mindset than how I went into it.
Great. Jennifer, how about with you?
Yeah, I appreciate what Kevin is saying. As you alluded to, I'm coming up on 1.5 years at RP. And I would say that the response was mixed. I want to be honest and candid. I would say, honestly, at this point in our agency, it's around 50-50. It's not as high as I would like. What I am most impressed with, and I like what Kevin said, is that for the first responders that we have internally, both dispatchers and fire and police, because we're public safety both, those members who are of the LGBT community, who are also first responders, I feel are getting the respect and having some culture change internally that's important for them. And that's important to me. It's extremely clear to me that LGBT policies and programs need to be outwardly supported by command staff down. And when there's a dichotomy between command staff perspectives on this topic, that trickles all the way down to patrol and frontline. And so I really see that needs to be a buy-in in agencies to support the success of our programs externally and internally for LGBTQ. So we've made huge strides, like the other departments have alluded. This last year, we've launched more than we have ever had. This will be our second year as an agency in the Pride Parade with a recruiting booth. We launched the Safe Space anti-hate program. We've met with high schools and junior highs with their gender sexuality alliance clubs to build that relationship with our younger generations. We started a roundtable that have some LGBTQ members giving us feedback on what we need to do better. We're raising and flying the flag. Things that we as an agency have not done. So this last year and a half is a huge year for us. I am hoping that this beautiful movement will inspire those who are inside our agency who may not understand as well to start to participate and understand that we protect everyone.
Right.
And as you all know, being a part of the law enforcement agency, there's a fine line of giving people permission and room to believe what they need to believe, and at the same time, asking all of us to move forward with respect and taking care of our internal people and our external community.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question. It's about 50-50, but it can only go up. That's how I see it.
Rome was not built in a day, right?
No, it was not.
Jay, how about for you?
For me, honestly, if there's been any negative feedback to it, it hasn't been told to my face. So all the feedback and stuff has been positive that I've been hearing. It's actually even being utilized as recent as this last hiring period. We had our first non-binary applied to come to Waco, and in the process, of course, reached out to me and was asking about it. So I agreed to meet him for coffee, and we kind of had some conversations and whatnot. And so during the process, I had some supervisors reach out to me and was like, hey, we've got it on binary in the process. Can you help me understand terminology? Can you help me with this? And so talking to him. So I've had nothing but positive feedback on what's going on, even as far as our victim services on some of the cases that they've had. Reach out to me internally and be like, hey, can you help me understand this a little more? And so having a one-on-one with them, so not only being a resource for the community, but internally as well, kind of helping guide them. And so as far as the department, and Chief has been nothing but supportive. If there's been any negative, thoughts on it, it hasn't been vocalized to me, or it's being kept to themselves internally. But as far as the community, I've got, nothing but support. And that's been absolutely amazing. We still have some boundaries and stuff to overcome, especially so Waco's Pride is in October. It's too hot in June in Texas. And so right now they don't feel comfortable with police having a booth there. But, Monday I have a meeting with their board to kind of talk to them and maybe see if we're having conversations, right? And maybe just don't have our big tent that has Waco PD on it and in uniform, but be in plain clothes, but still have something that says Waco PD Liaison or something. So having those conversations. So I've got some few months to kind of work in that, but they're open to building that, and they're excited about the work that's being done. So for me, especially in Waco, in such a conservative town, the fact that the community is really willing to kind of have that and know that it's got to be done together. Yes, we as law enforcement have some work to do, but to have the community supportive behind that and kind of have those conversations is what we can do better. It's been really great. So I think I answered all your question, Greg. I don't remember if there's a second part to it, but so far so good.
Great. We've got about 5 minutes left, and I want to end this program with a piece of advice from each of you for any individual officer who's watching this, or perhaps an agency executive who's watching this, what's the one most important piece of advice you would give that person who is interested in starting a program? Maria, let me go to you. What would you recommend?
2 words: do it. I think it creates a great opportunity to bridge that gap between us and the community. I think it allows not only internally the community within us feel welcome and feel open to be who they are, but then it will allow the community as well on the outside to be able to connect with us and be able to speak to us. I think having any type of liaison unit, it's amazing, and I think it's a great idea. So I know it's hard work, but it's worth it. At the end of the day, it's always worth it, and I will always say hands on, always do it.
Just do it. Think Nike. Excellent. Brandon?
Yeah, just piggybacking off of that. If there is any kind of, question as to start one or not, I think it's always important to remember that you're representing your community. So that's the first most important thing. And then we're representing internally ourselves as well. So if there's any indication on is this a good idea? Is it not? Just look at some of the people on this call today and some of the success stories that we've shared. You can always go over to the Orange County Sheriff's Office website at www.ocso/LGBT and check out how we post things there and how we operate. And if there's anyone out there that needs guidance or support into getting a program started, our agency is one of the lead agencies, I truly believe, in the country. So we're always willing to help do that. And we do that. I get weekly emails or phone calls from other agencies. So we're more than willing to support any agency across the country that may have questions, that may need policies and procedures. Maybe they have an employee that's transitioning on the job and need a guide for that. We have a policy for that. So we're here to support other agencies as well. So don't hesitate to reach out to us.
That's great, Brandon. I'm just going to use this opportunity also to say that there is a national network that we have that is hosted by Out to Protect. It's a national nonprofit that contains, I think we're up to 300 members from agencies large and small across the country. You can be part of that network for free, and that gives you access to be able to communicate with other agencies that might match your size, maybe even that are neighboring agencies. If you just go to outtoprotect.org, you'll see a link to join that network. And that is important, right? You don't need to reinvent the wheel. There is a lot of information that's out there, good models, both for policy and also just operationally, how to run a program. Jennifer, best advice for an agency thinking about starting a program?
Yes, absolutely. Build your team, power in numbers, build sworn, civilian, all generations. The more people you engage from your wraparound external organizations who are LGBT and your internal staff, the more, I think, prolific and productive you can be. And it's absolutely, there is no doubt that doing a liaison program in any way is not a great idea. I think it's going to be exciting to see what can happen over the next couple of years. I think it can only go forward. So it's all
Thank
good.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Jay, what's your advice?
Keep it simple. Don't quit. Whatever you start, don't quit it. You're going to have opposition, whether it be from, sometimes the community, sometimes internally from your department. There's going to be roadblocks that you're going to hit, but don't quit. When it feels like it can get overwhelming, because it will feel like it can get overwhelming, that's where you reach out to your support system, your networks. And that keeps giving you the motivation to keep going. And it's okay to sometimes just take a week to kind of regroup yourself and get back to where you need to be to keep driving forward, but just don't quit.
Great. Kevin?
Just kind of piggyback on what Brandon said, you are a representation of your community, and you always want to be proactive instead of reactive. You don't want to try to create a liaison unit on the back end in a response to something that has happened. We're in the 21st century, and things are different now from they were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so having an LGBT community that's out and open, it's a reality. So, that's something that, you want to get ahead of the ball and make sure that you have those resources in place, make sure that you have those policies in place. Even internally, having out officers is a reality. Even though an officer or an agency as a whole may not be used to having someone that's out, you have to have those policies in place to protect them internally as well as your community. That's why I thank Out to Protect so much, and I would recommend that to anyone. I always recommend it to other agencies as well. Even if they have a liaison program, please take that training. What I loved about the training is that it's developed to where if someone is not a member of the LGBT community, it breaks it down on what does this mean and what do you need to do. So you don't even have to be an LGBT member to be the liaison if you take this Out to Protect training. And so, Greg, I want to thank you so much for that. And, like they said, just do it. There's no reason why you don't need it.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Andrea, let's wrap it up with you. From the community's perspective, what's a piece of advice for law enforcement agencies thinking about starting a program?
I say we belong in, we're visible, we are part of the community. Don't ignore us. Don't ignore your own LGBTQ community you have inside the forces, because we are there too. We belong in. Let's do it, because this is going to help the community and the law enforcement part too, because you're going to have more community trust in law enforcement. So don't think about that. This is no hate. This is not political. Let's do it. This is only another group of humans. If they need it, they deserve the community.
Great point. LGBT people exist everywhere in the country. There isn't a town that doesn't have someone. And so it is an identity that transcends every gender, race, nationality, ethnicity, and political affiliation, right? Well, listen, I want to thank you all today for your amazing expertise, for spending the time and sharing these great ideas with law enforcement around the United States. And a special thanks to the National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund for hosting this program and for really supporting the LGBT community every year with a fantastic Pride event or exhibit on the website. Thank you all for being here today.
I'd like to thank Greg Moralia of Out to Protect for moderating today's discussion. And I would like to thank our panelists for providing their experience. The work that these panelists are doing in their departments provides a critical service to their communities. Additionally, I would like to extend my thanks to Target for sponsoring today's program. Their continued support of the National Law Enforcement Museum allows us to continue to provide programs that engage with critical topics which touch the field of law enforcement and our communities as a whole. We hope that you enjoyed today's program. And if you find yourself in Washington, D.C. this summer, we hope that you will pay us a visit right here in Judiciary Square. Until next time, thank you again for joining us, and stay safe.